We'll go over the project call summary. We'll go over the project call process, the evaluation criteria, the exhibits that will have to be completed as you are doing the proposal and concept paper, and then any nuances. All right, so the next slide will be our schedule. You should have, if you've seen the RFP that was placed on the America Makes website, have the schedule of dates located within that. But to ensure there's no confusion, we're going to go over them now. We have the project call announcement and posting was on the 27th. You'll see in the RFP that there was the project call kickoff webinar that was scheduled for today. We will have questions from proposers about the scope of the approach due. So what this means is until the 15th, please address any and all questions to projectcall@americamakes.us, and that is underlined in a later slide. But up until the 15th, we'll take questions, and we will address them on a weekly basis, so they'll be updated every Friday. The final responses to the questions that come in on the 15th will be completed on the 19th, and that will close out any of the question sessions for this. If you have any proprietary information, a NDA needs to be executed with NCDMM by the 22nd of December. The most important date will be the 3rd of January. This is when the first step of the project call is to be due. So those will be the project call submission papers. You'll have access to those on the website as well. The anticipated date to be notifying the teams who will be moving on to the step 2 full proposal will be the 17th of January. From there, the teams will have approximately 5 weeks to write a full proposal, and that due date will be February 23rd. So those are your 2 important dates there. Concept paper is going to be the 3rd of January, and the full proposal, if selected, will be the 23rd of February. We anticipate the decision and the notification to the teams on who will be selected for the possible project call on the 21st of March. With that being said, teams have approximately 60 days to get on their subrecipient agreements along with their teams and expect the selection of projects on the, or selection and beginning projects on the 1st of June. So that's the schedule. It also is located out in the America Makes website. And now we're going to move on to the objective and background of the MAMLS projects. So we're going to turn that over to John Wazinski, our Technology Director, and he's going to go over the objectives, the topics, and funding requirements.
Hello all. So one point to make on the schedule, and we'll talk about this at the very end, but there is a little nuance to the process that will take place between the anticipated decision and notification to proposal teams and actual getting on contract with those that are selected. So we'll get into a little more detail on that at the end, but this project call does have a little bit of a different twist at the end on how we're going to, how we need to negotiate those contracts. So the next slide is just talks about the objective, just to give a background for anyone who is not aware of where this effort is rooted. Overall objective of this Phase 3 open project call is to ultimately to build off of work that's been done on Phase 1 and Phase 2 of MAMLS, which stands for Maturation of Advanced Manufacturing for Low-Cost Sustainment. So that program has been going on for a couple of years. Phase 1 was initiated in 2016 and primarily focused on how do you apply additive manufacturing processes and just overall advanced manufacturing solutions to address sustainment needs specifically in this case, sustainment is referring to the ability to keep, aircraft, vessels, land vehicles, etc., up and operational. This is not sustainment, meaning how sustainable from an energy efficiency point of view it is. So just so everyone is clear on that. But the first effort, phase one, really focused on how to utilize AM for development of process aids, tooling, fixturing, things of that nature. It was a very broad approach in a variety of different technologies, trying to understand where additive fit. Phase two was started in the spring of this year, and there are three pretty specific focus areas where we're trying to identify, focusing on qualification of a particular part family. And families that are being investigated are the bell crank, an oil cooler, and a fairing. And there are three specific projects that are addressing that. All of that work, and you'll see some reference to project numbers in a couple different places in the information that we've published. All of that work is available to members via the America Makes digital storefront. So information on what's been done to date, what deliverables are expected out of the project, etc. Just so all of this is really a baseline of what has been done to date, what the project is focused on, etc. Just a couple more overall objectives are, what the project is, focused on is, demonstration of AM and advanced manufacturing technologies, for replacement parts, for maintenance of legacy aircraft, things of that nature, identification of, current technology, how does it align to gaps that exist within the maintenance, repair, overhaul, and sustainment communities, and what are the transition issues related to that, and kind of finally, just how do we demonstrate those technologies into that community. So the key here for everyone who's not been engaged, and just so it's crystal clear, and hopefully you pick that up through the evaluation criteria within the RFP, there is a need for your project proposal, or rather your project concept, to be related specifically back to a need within the sustainment community, within the DoD supply chain, something that will ultimately affect our ability to keep aircraft and vessels and DoD systems up and operational moving forward. So it cannot be a proposal that is, potentially a great technology development activity that doesn't relate back to those communities. It will not score well. It will not be. It will not do well in any of the phases of proposal review. So you need to be clear in your connection to the actual application space. So I will now go through the just high-level technical topics. Again, we'll address questions near the end, most likely. But we'll go through the individual technical topics. We'll primarily be explaining the text that is buried within the RFP, and then we'll make sure that any specific question that comes in is captured and documented so that everyone gets access to the same information. So there may be some questions that, for now we refer back to the RFP, and then if additional clarification is done, it will be done via a written response. But the three overall topics right now are, topic one is feature-based qualification for or using direct energy deposition. The not-to-exceed amount of a proposed idea is $2.5 million in federal funding. Topic two is understanding manufacturing realities of AMs, specifically the effects of defects in powder bed systems, and that is not to exceed $1 million in federal funding. And topic 3 is emerging process technologies for low criticality part families. Funding available on that for an individual award is not to exceed $600K. So each of the amounts listed in the right-hand column are not to exceed amounts for an individual project concept submission. Each of those does have a cost share requirement. We'll explain that in some detail moving forward. The expectation is that multiple awards will be given against some of these topics. It's not clear right now which those will be. It'll be based on best proposed idea in each of the topical areas. So I will now go into the 3 topics. And topic 1 is utilizing feature-based qualification for direct energy deposition. The overall approach here, what we're looking for is to try to create a catalog of relevant, unique combinations of process parameters with simplified geometry. So that the intention here is to get pretty specific, to create a catalog of qualified features, and the expectation here is that there'll be extensive material and process qualification testing associated with this. The expectation is that the proposer will identify relevant features, produce those features, determine the appropriate number of specimens, the tests associated with it, etc. The overall expectation is that feature-based qualification here is seen as a strategy that can be utilized moving forward to become more efficient in our design practices, but we don't have the data to back it up right now. So it's a relatively large effort, dollar value. The intention or goal of this effort in this particular topic is, we're specifically looking to adapt this to a production of large-scale additive manufactured components, primarily targeted on aerospace components using DED. There is no chosen or primary DED technology that is of interest. It's really up to the proposal team or those developing the project concept to identify the needs associated with it and build the case for why one technology or one system is more relevant than another for a particular application. So it's going to be critical to be able to demonstrate that and build within your proposal how you plan to demonstrate the capability and the approach that your team is intending on taking, why the technology is appropriate, why the system you selected is most appropriate, etc. And the last bullet there is, the intention is that, the team will identify associated implementation challenges, risks, build out the risk mitigation plans, and develop alternative qualification strategies. So there's some additional detail captured within the RFP. If there are more specific questions, you can type those in the right-hand side, and then we'll make sure that those get captured as answers that we share with the entire community. Here within the next few days, we'll have our first list of questions out for everyone. One note, and this slide similar to this exists for each of the 3 topical areas. We're going to actually put this out as a, within the Q&A here in the first batch that goes out. There is a alignment to the DoD roadmap for each of the 3 topics that has been captured by the Air Force. So you'll see here in this first example referenced 4 different DoD AM roadmap elements that the effort is connected to. And this is not an exclusive list. This is not the only thing that we're intending for a team to focus on, but these are tech elements that are connected from the DoD road mapping efforts that America Makes led with them about a year and a half ago, and this is a direct connection to that. So you can see a reference to these specific these specific roadmap elements within the DoD roadmap, which is posted out on the America Makes website. There's a link there to the final report there where you can get more detail about what each of these individual roadmap elements include. So we have this for each of the three topics. I won't go into that detail on the remaining two. The next topic, topic 2, is, on this slide labeled Effects of Defects. It's really about understanding manufacturing realities of AM. We all know that there's a variety of different reasons that, product that is produced or parts that are produced using AM are scrapped from time to time. There's lots of different root causes that could be causing that need to scrap a part, from powder contamination, process interruptions, unremoved powder, rough finishes, volumetric flaws, lack of fusion, all the things that we know take place within could take place within a build. Characterization of the flaws and the performance, mechanical performance based on those flaws, we still don't have a great handle on what it means to have those built, within a component. What it means to be located in a certain place, what it means to have defects, in close proximity to one another. There's a lot that is still unknown in this space, and what we're really looking for here is to have the project teams that are putting forward project proposals to identify and quantify those effects of defects on mechanical performance. So there's been quite a bit of work in this space. We've learned a lot in the last few years about specific defects. Now we need to, this effort is really focused on how do we understand more about what goes on with relationships of defects. Do we really need to scrap a part if we have a defect, or if there's a scenario that doesn't quantify or doesn't ultimately lead to a part needing to be scrapped? If we knew more about the mechanical performance, we can better make those decisions. So this is really what this project is about, including better understanding what post-processing does to a component. And what happens when we hit a product? Does it ultimately improve the mechanical performance such that we can continue to utilize the part, or is it a scenario where it really isn't having an effect on the ultimate end reality, or the end result of the product? Again, you'll see in this next slide, and again we'll post each of these specific roadmap elements on the Q&A in the next batch that comes out. But these are 5 specific roadmap elements that have been captured in the in the RFP. The third technical topic is focused on emerging processes, and specifically, we're looking for emerging processes for low criticality part families. We know AM is being utilized and has the opportunity to be implemented in a variety of different applications. In particular, AFRL is seeking to assess the degree to which new technologies are able to be introduced into parts of low criticality. So in particular, there's a number of different things that have been called out here, but there are a number of the F42 processes that have not been heavily investigated, through America Makes or through a variety of channels, that we would like to have teams put forward project concepts on. And this is probably the most open topic, in that there's a variety of processes that people could propose against. It's really up to the team to identify the area of application, why it's of value, the potential impact. In particular, when you think forward to the full proposal phase, it's critical to understand how likely it is to transition the proposed idea to the Air Force, the organic base, and how likely it is to have an impact on the DoD supply chain. So it's something every team needs to keep their head around as they're building project concepts, is what is the ultimate end-use application space, how does it tie back to the Air Force's needs, and how does it potentially impact the DoD supply chain. So in this topic in particular, a lot is on the table. Slide 12 here has a couple of roadmap elements that are connected to that. So that is, all we're going to really cover on specific technical expectations. There is more detail, as we said, in the RFP. If there are specific technical questions trying to better understand what we're focused on, please either include those within a question here today, or formally submit that through the project call at America Makes website, or email address, and then we'll respond to that and post it for everyone to see. So I'm going to hand it back over to Erin, and she's going to walk through some of the programmatics about how this call will, some of the details of the call.
Thanks, John. So what you should be seeing on your screen right now is a project call summary. This is what we'd like to call possibly a one-pager to assist all of you with the information. So as John made mention, there's $5.7 million that will be made available, and we are anticipating multiple awards. So if you use the chart on, I believe it was like slide 3 or 4, that has a breakdown for the topics, as well as we've put it here. Each of the topics have a period of performance up to 24 months. So it goes up to 22 months with technical, and then allows 2 months for reporting. So when you're doing your timelines and anticipating your project, please ensure that it can be completed in the 24-month maximum time period. 50% cost share is required. So what this means is that for every dollar you request of federal funding, 50 cents to that dollar is required in cost share, at least 50% or 50 cents. Then, as mentioned, the funding breakdown per topic area. Topic 1 has up to $2.5 million available, topic 2 up to $1 million, and topic 3, $600,000 per proposal. You'll notice on the side there's a graphic which shows the two-step process that we're doing. The project concept process, and what's anticipated there is your overall high-level plans, some very mature ideas, value, and a thorough review. This way that if you get selected for the second phase or second step, you will pretty much have outlined your full proposal. So as a reminder, I'm going to keep saying the date over again, January 3rd is the due date for step 1. If selected to move on to step 2, your due date will be February 23rd, and that will be your more in-depth full proposal information. So another slide that we'll be showing as a one-pager is similar to this, and it's just a breakdown of what the steps are. For a lot of people, our last project call, they experienced the two-step process, so it's similar to that. So you have your step 1 and what we're looking for in the project call concept paper. And it's more, as John had mentioned, we're looking at the technical methodology as well as the transition for your concept paper. And then your step 2 will be the full proposal, and we're going to go over the scoring or the evaluation criteria here in the next slide. So for the evaluation of the step 1 criteria, is the technical approach and methodology, which will be up to 6% or 60%, and then your technology transition will be up to 40%. So those will be the two main focus areas for the concept paper. Moving into step 2 selection, you will have the technical merit, which will include the approach and methodology, the executive summary and overview. That's up to 40%. You have the technology dissemination and likelihood of transition to the United States Air Force. That is up to 10%. Likelihood of impact on DoD supply chain partners, scoring of up to 30%. And then your program management approach. This includes on how the leads will oversee their teams, their schedule, their funding, their reporting, as well as previous history with America Makes projects. Oh, John's gonna.
Just a point to make for anyone who hasn't been part of a call in the past, and this is not critical in the first phase project concept, but once you get to the project full proposal phase, just a word of caution. Make sure you take into consideration all of the evaluation criteria. The biggest problem we have with teams is not addressing the transition aspect of the effort. And most teams are very good at identifying the technology development and the kind of the core technology that's being advanced and do a very good job at that. But there is regularly, we do debriefs in the final phase where we tell teams that although your technology was fantastic, you scored poorly because there was very little effort put into the transition and dissemination portion of it. So you can see the percents associated with this. Please make sure that you take that into consideration as you build your full proposal if you get to that phase. Thanks.
Thanks, John. That was a great point. So we'll move on now to the project called Exhibits, and we'll go over a few just minor details with them. You'll find them attached to the RFP off the website, and these are all required when you submit your concept paper and proposal. So actually it'll be just for your proposal. So the identification of background intellectual property. You're going to want to go ahead and complete this. This will keep from whatever the consortium created IP is. This will keep your background IP separate. This is going to be under section 6 of the RFP, just in case anyone is wondering where that's at. You also have multiple submission summary. This is an example of multiple sources of funding. So if you plan on using any other sources of funding, we'll need a list of that and the organization and the possible decision date. So that's under Exhibit 6 as well. We also need letters of commitment. So with your project teams, whoever the lead is and whoever your partners will be, they will need to submit their letter of commitment, which will need to be attached. Publication of consortium developed IP. This will be a list of any and all types of publications you believe will be created during your project. This is important because whether it be an MMX or a TRX or teams writing to submit abstracts and presentations to such events such as SFF, they need to go through our government partners, so they will need at least 30 days to review them. So if you can get an idea of what type of publications you believe will be created out of the project, that would be an excellent start. Identification of consortium developed IP. This one we're going to go into a little bit more detail in the next slide, but this will be any of the information that your team intends to create or thinks will be created during this project. And then a proposal cost summary. So what we'll need to see is the anticipated cost of the federal cost, the cost share, the total project, and you'll find that document in Exhibit 6 or Section 6 as well. So next we'll move on to the bit more detailed Exhibit 5, which is the identification of consortium-developed IP. And here we are looking at, we started this with our project call last year, or almost 2 years ago, project call 4. And this allows the teams to gather what they believe will be consortium-developed IP, as well as provides the American Makes team and NCDMM team an idea of the tangible artifacts to be delivered to membership and the expected due date. For those of you who are aware, we have the digital storefront where as soon as a project begins, we begin updating that information so that our members are aware of what is coming down the pipeline. So as soon as the selected projects kick off, we will put this information into our digital storefront and be able to understand what we're going to get or what we're going to provide members with from this project, as well as the United States Air Force. John, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so just so everyone is aware and so it's clear at this stage of the game, for step 1 of the process, this project concept process, the only thing that we are expecting you to submit to us by 5 p.m. Eastern on January 3rd is the project concept tool, which is an Excel-based document that you go into and fill out answers to a number of questions across a number of different tabs. All of these exhibits are only required if you get selected to put in a full proposal, and then we need these. This is all just up front because we do not want to get into the scenario where we ask somebody to put in a submission for a full proposal and then they didn't understand the expectations up front. So these exhibits are only required at the end. This Exhibit 5 in particular is something we use regularly, and it will be a very important document if you do get selected. This is kind of our baseline of what your project will be executing, who owns the IP that is being developed. If it is based on some background IP, we want to know that and need to know that up front, and what specifically you're going to be handing over as part of the demonstration or execution of the task. So in particular, we're trying to make sure we're driving value in developing tangible artifacts that can be developed or delivered to our membership, both our public and private partners. So just kind of drilling in on this one a little bit, but we've added a couple of columns here to make sure we're getting the detail we need. This is something that if you get selected for award, we will dig into even deeper in the negotiation phase, but I just wanted to make sure everyone knew the expectations up front for this one.
Thanks, John. So we will now move on to the eligibility requirements and then the reporting requirements. So the most important note is to submit a concept paper, you do not have to be an American Makes member. We will accept concept papers from non-members. However, with that being said, if selected for a full proposal, the team or the lead must be a member by February 9th. And you'll notice this is a different date than when the actual full proposal is due. So 2 weeks ahead of time, you'll need to be an American Makes member to complete or to be able to submit your full proposal. Another aspect is the subrecipient agreement must be signed within 60 days. So we're shooting for 60 days with the lead, and then anticipating the lead having their team members on within 60 days as well. Next, monthly status reports. Once you've been selected to move on and start the project, you will need technical, financial, and cost share monthly reporting, as well as monthly meetings. You'll also be expected to attend our members meeting and exchange, MMX, or at least 1 to 2 times per year. Come and present on your status of the project. You'll also have to annual Air Force review, or a site visit. So depending on what is required, it could be going to one of the Air Force's program management reviews, or it could be going and meeting at a project location with the Air Force. Also, virtual monthly meetings. This will include the MCDM PM, the team members from the project team, and possibly government advisors. Anticipate a kickoff meeting within 30 days of contract award. So start anticipating a kickoff, I would say, for around July. And then delivery of the project CDIP and deliverable artifacts as identified in Exhibit 5. And so those are required to be submitted as they are complete. In the past, we've often allowed to wait until the end of the project, but it's important to note that since we are telling membership when they are coming or when they are going to be available, that we keep up with that and have them submitted on time. And then a final report. So as you had seen in the period of performance, we can go up to 24 months of technical performance with a 2-month final report time. So please plan accordingly for those final reports.
I got just a couple of additional comments, and some of these address kind of indirectly some of the questions on that have come in. So key bullets on this slide, and just so you're aware of the specifics. So membership is not at all required to submit a project concept, so that's clear. No one on your, if it worked out this way, not one single person on your team needs to be a member when you submit a project concept. If you get selected to submit a full proposal, the lead organization must be a member by that February 9 date. However, not all team members need to be a member in order to have your proposal accepted. So just so everyone's clear on that, just like in past open project calls, the requirement is the team lead needs to be a member. Not all participants need to be a member, although there are some restrictions to access of information. And then obviously it's a great opportunity to get engaged, provide cost share, et cetera, such that you are able to join and get access to the data that members get access to. So everyone is aware. If you've not been engaged or haven't heard of MAMLS, there have, regularly they hold review meetings that includes other team members, other projects that are being executed. This is part of a much larger effort. This is, as we'd mentioned, the third phase of the MAMLS effort. So the bullet that references a Air Force review or on-site visit, that is likely going to be completed through in a meeting where you'll be briefing with the other MAMLS team members. Not that that's set in stone, but that's likely what that task is all about. So those are the couple things in particular I want to make sure everyone was aware of.
Thanks, JDub. Another important point here as we are beginning to wrap up and get into questions and answers will be that we're going to hit as many questions as we can that have been typed in, but if we don't get them all answered, please look for them to be on the website by Tuesday of next week. So with that being said, let's go into questions and answers. So we will have a page out, same place as the project call site on America Makes, that will have frequently asked questions. That will be out this afternoon. So any of the questions we've ever experienced during a project call and that we anticipate experiencing in the future for project calls will be on that page. There will also be another location for this specific project call that will only address the questions that were asked either here on the webinar or throughout the date of the 15th. So with that being said, you'll have the frequently asked questions document and then a separate link for the MAMLS Phase 3 project call. For all questions that are not being addressed here or have not been asked here on the webinar, we ask that you email your question to projectcall@americamakes.us. And as a reminder, all questions are due by December 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and the final response to all questions will be out on the 19th. Again, if you email a question, we will update the Q&A section of the website every Friday. So if you email on a Monday, you'll get your answer, and will be released on Friday. A few more important notes: questions will not be answered individually. So as mentioned, if you email on Monday, we will, for unbiased reasons, answer all the questions at once and locate them all on the website so everyone has access at the same time to the questions. They will be entered on a weekly basis at the project call link for America Makes, and questions that are emailed directly to NCDMM personnel and not to the project call at America Makes US will not be answered. Again, the reason being is there can't be any unbiased, whether it be getting a question answered in a faster manner or prior to everyone else who is participating having access to it. So with that, JDub, do you have anything that you would like to address before we begin answering questions?
No, I think so what we'll do now is go through some of the questions. If they're programmatic questions about the process, what's available, et cetera, we'll answer those. All of the technical questions we'll get with, we'll copy them down and then work with the Air Force to get responses back from, America Makes and the Air Force, and have those. That'll be included in what we post on Tuesday, just so we can get it out pretty quickly. But as far as is a technology included in a topic or not, we'll just capture those questions and then put responses out to everyone on Tuesday. So look for that on Tuesday. A couple of the questions that are asked are about slides. All of these slides will be, or are going to be made available on the website. So if you go to americamakes.us, there is a section, there's a slider that shows up, is probably the easiest way to get to it. If you click on the project call announcement, it'll take you to a project call page that has all of the detail. You likely have been there prior to registering for this webinar. Once you go to view more information or something like that, it's called, it takes you to the RFP and all of the associated documents. So posted out there is the RFP. There's a question about that on here. Where do I get it? There is the project concept tool, which is what we're expecting that you submit back to us by the 3rd of January. There is a document that gives you guidelines on what the expectations are for answering each of the questions embedded within that document. There is a reference to the slides that were presented by the Air Force at the Industry Day at our America Makes MMX. There is a reference to the DoD additive manufacturing roadmap that we had worked on with them last year. So all of those documents are available. These slides will be made available. The recording of this webinar will be made available, all accessible on that americamakes.us link. So we look down through. Yes, teams can submit more than one project concept. Teams can, or a team member can be on as many project concept submissions as they would like. So there's no, you're not required to only be included within one or only submit one document. So those are, you're free to be on as many teams as you would like. All subs do not need to be America Makes members, only the lead, as we mentioned during the, once you submit a full proposal, 50% cost share. So I think Aaron may have talked about this after, or prior to, or excuse me, after the question was posted, but just so everyone understands, first, we'll use a simple equation. If you're requesting $100 of federal funding, the expectation is that you are providing $50 of in-kind cost share of some form whether that's equipment, materials, in-kind, direct labor, whatever it might be. That is all. That is what is included within that 50% cost share match. So the total effort would equal $150 in my scenario. So that's what is expected there. Proposals are due at 5 p.m. Eastern on the 3rd of January. The cost share, if you look at the evaluation criteria, they're in, for the full proposal, there's quite a bit more detail in what we're expecting a team to respond to. So the intention is the project concept helps you build your idea, build it around what we care about, what the Institute is focused on, and then if you're selected to move forward to that second phase or second step, you can utilize that structure of the project concept to build out your proposal. There are evaluation criteria with some more detail. Cost is included in there as a non-scored evaluation criteria. So the requirement is that you meet the cost share requirement, the cost share amount based on what you're asking for. It is the quality of the cost share and the amount of the cost share is a unscored evaluation criteria or evaluation factor, but it is potentially something, if two proposals are, dead even, if one is contributing significantly more and providing more value at the end of the day, that is it does go into the evaluation criteria. So that the balance of the questions appear to be pretty specific, as for topic 3 is this particular technology being included, or for topic 1 is there a particular material that you care more about than another. So we'll work directly with the Air Force here kind of immediately following this call, and then have posted on Tuesday to the americamakes.us website the answers to both. We'll have the Q&A or the FAQ posted, as well as the first version of the questions and answers. So it'll be a collection of these and anything else we get in at the project call email address. Any other parting comments or last details that we need to go over?
I think
that's the last slide.
I think that should be it. Just a reminder that your concept paper is due January 3rd before 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any proposals or concept papers received after that time will not be reviewed or taken into account for. So make sure they're in by 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for your time today. We look forward to the concept papers we're going to receive.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.